This canyon is different from the other canyons. The bottom of the canyon is relatively flat, unlike the other canyons in the national parks. The walls of the canyon is more vertical than others, which creates a very different look.
In 2025, a U.S. Heritage Survey team, equipped with LiDAR technology, ventured into Canyon de Chelly in northeastern Arizona, a red sandstone valley plunging more than 300 meters deep. Renowned for its sheer cliffs that stand like pillars of time, they came to scan and create 3D maps, capturing every detail of the ancient architecture to reconstruct the area of Tseyakin, House Under the Rock, a place the indigenous Diné or Navajo regard as a sacred realm of spirits. But just days after the survey began, inexplicable events unfolded. Magnetic field instruments suddenly fluctuated wildly. Several team members reported dizziness, ringing in their ears, and rapid heartbeats whenever they approached the central area. At the same time, seismic microphones detected low-frequency rumbles emanating from deep within the cliff's frequencies, too low for human ears to detect, but potent enough to be felt in the body. For the Diné, this was no surprise. They simply said, "When you enter the valley without greeting it, it will not greet you." In Diné culture, every action in nature is tied to Hojo, the harmony between people, land, and spirits. If someone intrudes without performing the proper rites for permission, that balance is shattered, and when Hojo is disturbed, the canyon responds not with words, but with vibrations. Canyon de Chelly is no ordinary relic. It is one of the oldest continuously inhabited sites in North America, spanning 4 millennia, from the Archaic period, where the first hunter-gatherers kindled fires beneath the rocks, to the basket-maker culture AD 200–700, when rock alcoves became dwellings. Then the ancestral Pueblo AD 1050–1300, who built Mummy Cave, a complex of 165 rooms, nestled in the cliff face like a sandstone honeycomb. These homes were not merely shelters. They were plastered with a layer of gypsum mixed with pale green minerals, still shimmering faintly under sunlight. The Pueblo believed that green symbolized the spirit world, where earth and sky merged as one. And when the Pueblo departed, the Hopi and then the Diné Navajo arrived to take stewardship, not to destroy, but to preserve. For them, Canyon de Chelly is where the ancestors never truly left. When archaeologists and LiDAR engineers entered in 2022, they thought they were stepping into a monument in need of preservation. But for the Diné, they were entering a living body, a landscape with consciousness, memory, and responses. Yet, for science, it was data. For the Diné, it was sacred imbalance. Were those numbers they measured magnetic fields, infrasound waves, infrared light, truly just data, or merely the canyon's way of whispering, reminding them that memories exist not only in people, but in stone? Tseyakin House Under the Rock lies in the northern branch of Canyon de Chelly, where towering sandstone walls embrace a massive rock alcove, resembling the gaping mouth of a giant cave overlooking the valley. As the LiDAR survey team advanced, they noticed the entire interior surface coated in a strange material gypsum plaster infused with pale green minerals, flecked with silvery glints under the scanning lights. At first, many assumed it was ancient moss or algae, but under an electron microscope, the coating revealed an unusual structure, a lattice of copper and silica crystals interwoven, akin to artificial semiconductors. The findings left the research team perplexed. In natural conditions, copper and silica don't readily crystallize into such uniform patterns. Geologists attempted to explain it as a product of millennia of weathering, but traces of human hands, smear marks, horizontal sweeps contradicted that hypothesis. This plaster had been applied deliberately, layer by layer, as if someone knew exactly they were working with a material of special properties. As measurements commenced, magnetometers recorded anomalous fluctuations, with magnetic fields higher than the average for the Colorado Plateau region. Simultaneously, biological sensors worn by the technicians displayed odd reactions, elevated heart rates, strong alpha wave oscillations, especially in those standing near the alcove's central area. The phenomenon repeated multiple times, regardless of time or weather conditions, forcing the team to re-evaluate their entire protocol. The data indicated that this plaster layer possessed weak energy conducting capabilities. When humidity in the cave rose, the copper-silica lattice generated microampere currents, enough to create a faint static sensation upon touch. The scientific explanation was an electrochemical reaction between minerals and moisture, but for the Diné, This was the breath of the land, a sign that ancestral spirits still dwelled within the stone. Outside the cave, Canyon de Chelly fell into absolute silence. Only upon delving deeper inside did one sense the vague, low hum like a distant heartbeat, unclear if it was mechanical vibration or the natural echo of the rock structure. A few members described the feeling of standing inside a colossal creature where every footstep altered the air. These facts quickly sparked debate in scientific circles. Some argued it was evidence of rare electromagnetic reactions in copper-bearing sandstone geology. Others believed the plaster was no random product, but a ritual material intentionally created by ancient inhabitants to channel spiritual energy in Hazo ceremonies, the harmony between people, land, and spirit. Whichever way, all data pointed to the same thing. House under the rock was no dead space. It reacted. It retained. And perhaps it was responding to modern human presence in ways we have yet to decipher. Was that green plaster merely natural minerals, or part of an ancient system designed to conduct energy, a fossilized neural network of the Earth? After nearly 3 weeks of continuous surveying, the LiDAR team began noticing inexplicable optical phenomena inside Tse-Ya-Kin. Under the sweeping laser lights, certain wall sections reflected a faint green glow, not steadily, but in pulses. When the illumination intensity was reduced, the luminescence persisted for several seconds before fading, as if the rock surface was storing energy and releasing it gradually. Geophysical physicists attributed it to natural phosphorescence, where silica absorbs photons. But what they couldn't explain was why this occurred only in areas containing copper, and especially, only on the hand-applied ancient plaster layers. Spectral data showed that the copper-silica crystals in Tse-Ya-Kin emitted weak light in the 480-510 nEms range, matching the turquoise hue the ancient Pueblo used to describe the light of the spirits in dry conditions. The reaction was almost non-existent, but as humidity in the cave increased, the walls began glowing more intensely, creating a visual effect like phosphorescent auras around the rock fissures. It was then that the Dene guides accompanying the survey refused to proceed any further. To them, it wasn't a physical phenomenon, it was a warning. For the Dene, light emanating from stone signaled that Hazo, the balance between the world of the living and the ancestors, was being disrupted. Each time that energy appeared, it meant someone had touched what should not be touched. As the technical team continued gathering data, a string of strange incidents occurred. Some automated recording cameras shut off abruptly, with batteries draining unusually fast. GPS devices lost signals during one full laser scan. The 3D modeling software captured noise in the form of waves rippling along the cave's axis, resembling a signal pulse moving through the rock. Technicians dismissed it as an algorithmic error, but when cross-checking geomagnetic data, a weak electromagnetic spike appeared at the exact moment, lasting 0.7 seconds with no clear source. These results led to a temporary halt in the Canyon Preservation Project for safety reviews. Yet, for the Dene community, it came too late. Elders insisted the survey teams had awakened spirits sleeping in the stone. They demanded the central area be sealed and a blessing way ceremony performed to restore balance to the canyon. In the final measurements before withdrawal, geophysicists recorded another unusual phenomenon, periodic infrasound around 19 Hz, emanating from deep in the eastern wall. This sound was inaudible to the ear, but strong enough to cause pressure sensations in the ears and chest. Those lingering too long in the cave described a heavy feeling, like being underwater. For science, it was merely wind resonance infrasound naturally produced by air flowing through narrow rock crevices. But in Dene language, it was the breath of the canyon. The more they recorded, the more they realized Canyon de Chelly was not as silent as assumed. Beneath layers of millennia-old stone, something was still in motion, glowing, vibrating, reacting as if the entire valley were a living organism. And the question remained open. If these phenomena were not random, could humans be in dialogue with something far older than their own civilization? After 3 months of work, the Canyon LiDAR Preservation Project was forced to pause. Technical reports documented a series of anomalies, strong magnetometer signal fluctuations, GPS disconnections, some sensors failing when placed in the main alcove. Many survey team members exhibited strange symptoms: dizziness, headaches, chest pressure. Medical checks revealed no causes. The Dene community swiftly demanded a halt to all activities. For them, Tse-Ya-Kin was not an archaeological cave, but a dwelling of ancestral spirits. They viewed sampling the plaster and installing equipment as sacred violations, in Diné tradition. This area is Kalogi Hatso, the cave of those who do not wish to be disturbed. Only the permitted may enter and perform rites to maintain Hozho, the harmony between humans and the land. Dialogue between the archaeological team and Navajo Nation representatives grew tense. Scientists insisted they were studying solely for heritage preservation, but the indigenous side argued modern technology had awakened ancestral energy. When reports noted repeating electromagnetic pulses, that belief was reinforced. Final measurements at Tseya Kin detected 3 weak electrical spikes, occurring exactly 24 hours apart. The amplitude was small, but the cycle unusually stable. No natural physical source matched that frequency. The technical team checked for equipment interference, but results were negative. Following the incidents, the National Park Service and Navajo Nation jointly agreed to seal the central area, classifying it as a restricted sacred zone. Only automated monitoring devices were allowed to operate, with no human presence. All new data was sealed. From then on, no one entered House Under the Rock. Those who had participated in the survey described a shared sensation: thick, oppressive air, sounds compressed, as if the canyon was echoing back their every breath. But in official reports, it was all logged as numbers fluctuating magnetic fields, microelectrical pulses, and biosafety warnings. Between the two interpretations, science and belief, there was no common ground. One saw geophysical data, the other, signs of spirits. But both agreed on one thing: Canyon de Chelly had reacted. The remaining question was not why the equipment failed, but should we continue touching places where the stone is still alive, when the Tseya Kin area was sealed. The technical team removed all equipment. However, the fixed magnetic field sensor system in the alcove continued transmitting data to the center for weeks, and it was those numbers that unveiled a new layer of information. Analysts noticed that the electromagnetic field at House Under the Rock was not as stable as expected. The oscillations were small but repeated in 24-hour cycles, matching the times when archaeologists had previously recorded weak electrical spikes. When comparing LiDAR maps and geological data, they found the magnetic noise zones aligned precisely with areas of the green plaster, the ancient material containing copper and silica. Electron analysis revealed the plaster was not uniform. The copper-silica crystals formed natural microcircuits, capable of conducting light electricity when humidity changed, under certain conditions. The cave walls could generate extremely low voltages, a few microvolts enough to affect sensors. For science, this was a natural geoelectrical phenomenon. For the Dene, it was the energy circuits of spirits. In the 2025 interim report, the research team termed it geoelectrical response. In other words, the rock was reacting to its environment, emitting signals when surrounding conditions shifted. Each time humidity rose or wind direction changed, voltage levels fluctuated. There was no evidence of artificial origins. When anthropologists analyzed the phenomenon, they offered another perspective. Ancient people may have sensed these electromagnetic changes in the stone, even without understanding the mechanism. To them, the canyon was a breathing entity, a living system that could hear and respond. Thus, Hozho rituals were not mere beliefs, but ways to maintain real equilibrium in the natural environment. When the data was released, debate erupted. Where is the boundary between geological response and spiritual reaction? Scientists wanted to continue research, but the Navajo Nation demanded a permanent halt to all measurements in the area. They believed the land had spoken enough. By the end of 2025, all equipment was dismantled. However, the final report left a notable conclusion. The varying electric field signals exhibit clear cycles, unattributable to mechanical or atmospheric sources. In other words, the canyon had responded, but no one knew how. The final question gradually took shape. If the stone layers at Tseya Kin truly possess the ability to store and transmit energy, then perhaps the ancestors of the Diné not only built shelters, but also constructed an ancient communication system between humans and the earth. In early 2026, the Tseya Kin area was officially closed indefinitely. Warning signs were erected along the entrances to Canyon de Chelly Sacred Zone No Entry. No more archaeologists, no more equipment, only remote sensors operated quietly, transmitting baseline data to the Navajo Nation's Preservation Center. From that point, the canyon returned to the silence of millennia past, but in that very quietude, the data continued to shift. Some sensors recorded slight increases in electric fields, seasonally not anomalous geologically, but precisely coinciding with the Dene community's Blessing Way ceremony cycles. Though no one claimed causal links, this coincidence left many scientists silent rather than dismissive. In post-project interviews, survey team members all echoed the same: the canyon didn't inspire fear, but a sense of being observed in return. They described a strange state where measurement technology seemed to gather data, but humans themselves were the variables being recorded, not due to spirituality, but a clear reality. The strata there responded to every impact, including breaths, voices, or electromagnetic waves from their bodies. Anthropologists later proposed a new interpretation. Perhaps ancient people didn't believe the canyon had spirits, but knew it through sensory experiences: sounds, winds, pressures, rock vibrations. They didn't deify the earth, one researcher said. They simply recognized that it was alive. From a technical angle, geophysicists suggested this could open new research into geobioelectrics, how natural materials store and emit weak energy signals. But for the Navajo Nation, all discussion was over. They viewed Tsayakin as an activated zone, no longer for human study, but returned to its original function, a space for communion between ancestors and Mother Earth. Today, maps of Canyon de Chelly no longer show the exact location of House Under the Rock. The area is blurred on all public data systems. Both science and belief have withdrawn, leaving an entity that continues to operate, but no one measures it anymore. The final question remains unanswered. If the canyon is truly a stone brain preserving humanity's memories, then when we touch it with technology, is it perhaps also remembering us?